We don't need radically new ideas. We need to pick up and move on ideas that have been out there. You went to college full time. We should subsidize you
Right.
so that you can get that degree so that you don't need subsidies. We've had a high value return to college degrees for a long time. But the problem that we had is that we were holding back actually getting the big ROI because the people who most needed college were the least likely to get it.
How much of this do you think is just straight a political failure where you have one side rather openly kind of attacking education or going after at least the public education for privatization being like Republicans, and then Democrats largely kind of it's like in the backdrop of their agenda. It seems like I can't remember the last time like higher education was like on the forefront of a Democrat's platform or something. How much do you think that's to blame versus like economic failure, maybe where just everything's getting more expensive, private institutions are taking advantage of this? How do you kind of balance those?
I think it's almost entirely a political failure. I think we know how to deal with the economics of this. We do a lot of really dumb things already. So, for example, we spend a lot of money financing places like the University of Phoenix, which has terrible outcomes, and we're paying for those Super Bowl commercials that they run every year, right? Those are institutions that do not benefit American taxpayers, and we throw upwards of $40 billion at them every year while we starve the nation's community colleges.
Yeah.
That's not, we don't do that for economic sense. We do that for political reasons. We do that because those for profits pad the wallets of both Republicans and Democrats in Congress, right? Now, Republicans attack education because when people get more education, they frankly don't tend to vote Republican in nearly the same way. But they're also just more aware and less likely to accept arguments about how we should just believe things. Democrats, I think part of the issue is that Democrats can't seem to agree on almost anything, nor to prioritize almost anything, and there is an elitist strain certainly in the party that says, oh well, we wouldn't want to, for example, decenter Harvard in favor of, making the local community college or state university free because we actually think we're better people because we went to Harvard. And so there's that, right? And so there's also this like, they've actually bought into, in my view, the most detrimental and harmful parts of higher education, which it actually means it thinks it's higher or better than other types of education. And that's silly because if you want to talk about what really has an impact on your life, it's preschool education,
Yeah.
right? I work on higher ed mainly because it's the last, like, it's where the real fight is,
Hmm.
in some ways, because we are still trying to just overcome just a basic misunderstanding of the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I agree with you. I actually work at a school right now. I work in K-8. I've always worked with childhood development. So this kind of thing's always been important to me as well. And it's blown my mind how one side is like against it and the other side seemingly doesn't care enough. What do you think then, policy prescription wise? Like, what are some of the things politically that need to be done to start fixing this problem that is pretty evident?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, here's the good news is that the solutions have been stated for quite a while. We don't need radically new ideas. We need to pick up and move on ideas that have been out there. So, the very notion of just simply connecting the dots, right, between public K-12 and, public preschool, right, and all of that up to, if you want to call it, the 16th grade, right, which those numbers mean much less at that point. We should think about this as lifelong learning. There should be a tuition-free path for lifelong learning for anybody who wants that education. I'm not saying every institution in the country suddenly becomes government dependent. They don't have to. You can choose not to. We're just not going to fund you,
Yeah.
right? Like that's my take, is that we should fully fund public education. And if you want to spend your own money to go to these other places. Okay, fine. By the way, let me just bracket the issue of minority serving institutions because I think they do serve the public good in a way that we should fund them the same way we fund publics. So I'm not putting HBCUs in a different category or putting HSIs in a different category. I'm saying you serve the public good. It's really obvious we need you. And so we would do that as well. We would also do things like expand the National School Lunch Program to higher ed. We would take all of the supports that are really clearly helping people in K-12, including free transportation, right? Access to subsidized housing for your family and so on. And we would expand those. We do the opposite right now, right? A student graduates high school and we say, no more food for you. Financial aid's got you, even though it doesn't, right? Or we say, oh no, you can't live in an apartment that is subsidized by the low income housing tax credit because you went to college full time. Why? You went to college full time. We should subsidize you
Right.
so that you can get that degree so that you don't need subsidies later. So those are the kinds of things that I think, without moving outside of our current framework, our current capitalist framework, right? We can do that. Like, we don't have to upend giant systems. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not for upending those systems. I'm just saying we don't even have to do all that.
Yeah.
Like, we could pass this in 2028 if we wanted to. All we got to do is say, we're going to elect somebody who, or a lot of somebody's, right, who have an actual plan. And frankly, and this is probably the most controversial thing I might say for your audience. Look, I hate student debt. I don't want it created in the first place. So my vision of this is not so much to focus on cancel it as the main thing, but go prevent it, right? And also remediate our past mistakes, but make sure that we stop creating generations of debt.
Mhm.
And we don't seem to be electing people who know how to do that.
I'm curious, the last question I have for you is what would your response be kind of for those who might say like, well, that all sounds good. I'm for a lot of that, but because this is the common thing I get is like, yeah, but it's got to be the right kind of degrees, and we have people going for art studies and what whatever degree they list. What's your kind of pushback to that?
My pushback there is that the evidence says that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always been some people who do a thing that is not the thing you want them to do. But we let rich people do that all the time. So what we're really saying is my kid can do whatever they want, and other people's children have to study the thing I think is important. That's not how we got through the 20th century, to be honest with you, right? Like, we need historians and we need literature people, we need all kinds of things. But I think we can agree that talent and even hard work does not only rest in people with lots of money. So, why would we try to keep smart minds in poor families from getting to realize those talents? The other thing is the data really clearly show this generation is far less likely than prior generations to pick those things. They're all so scared economically that, like, they're showing up and they're all business majors.
Yeah.
And by the way, we can't all be business majors because there's other jobs that have to be done, right? And there's other things to learn. So I think most of that talk is just people talking about stuff they don't actually know about. It's like I went to college and I met a guy and he did basket weaving. So basket weaving must be the main major out there, right? That's just silliness. Or two, it's a rhetorical device to try to get control, frankly, over how other people live, which I thought conservatives, as particular, didn't like.
Mhm.
So, unless this is really about white Christianity dictating the terms and conditions of the future of all of us and our kids and, the whole world, if it's not that, if we're not for that, then I think we just need to, like, let things proceed because they actually were going pretty well in that regard. We've had a high value return to college degrees for a long time, but the problem that we had was that we were holding back actually getting the big ROI because the people who most needed college were the least likely to get it. We fixed that problem. We've got a world-class system.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, but before I let you go, if you want to shout out
Sure.
like your website, like any events,
Sure.
a book, anything like that, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I do have a book. It's turning 10 next year. It's called Paying the Price. And to my knowledge, it's the only really student focused story about this affordability issue. Everybody else is kind of writing from the wonky perspective. And yeah, if you type into Google Sara Goldrick, my name will come up right away. And I do have a website with a giant free library filled with all kinds of stuff that people can use to help drive policy or to write op-eds and lots of links to other interesting things.
Awesome. And I'll definitely have the website and a link to the book in the description if anyone wants to check those out.
Great.
Thank you again. It was a wonderful conversation. And
Thank you. Thanks so much. You're
yeah,
asking great questions. So
thank you. Yes.
wonderful.
And you were sharing your expertise very well. We'd love to have you on again in the future. So
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.